So it's February, which means not only is it February and winter, it is CHD Awareness Month. If you don't know what CHD stands for, it stands for Congenital Heart Defects Awareness. Today especially is Wear Red, Go Red for Women Day. I have red on my shirt right here. I'm wearing my Martin Truex Jr. Championship shirt. So around his name is red font. I'm wearing red for myself. If you're new to my channel or you don't know much about me, I am a 27-year survivor of a CHD defect. I was given 48 hours to live at birth, 72 max. Obviously, I surpassed that and more. I just turned 27 last summer. I'll be 28 this summer. I've had 25 surgeries, 23 being on my heart and pacemaker related, and the other 2 were non-heart related. But I was 5 years old when I had my first surgery. I was just days away from turning 6. It was July of 1996. And I had, my heart repaired. It was enlarged, so they had to repair a bunch of that and revise it, and they put in a porcine valve, or also known as a pig's valve, and this was supposed to last me quite a while. Unfortunately, I didn't even make it 6 years roughly. It was October of 2002 that I was struggling more to breathe and just struggling to keep up with all the kids my age, and I went in and I had an angioplasty done, which is where they take a balloon and try to blow up the valve pretty much to buy time to avoid surgery as much as possible. But unfortunately that failed, and it did not work. So I had a mechanical heart valve placed 2 days after Christmas in 2002. They put in an adult size form since I was 12 years old. If they would have put in a child one, I would have needed another heart operation to put in adult form. So they just didn't want to do that with me. So they just put in adult one right away. And shortly after, it was January 6, 2003. I don't know how I remember that. I just do. I went into heart block and I had to have a pacemaker put in. So one part of my heart is too fast and the other is too slow. So my heart doesn't work right. So I'm 100% dependent on a pacemaker. So that pacemaker is just constantly firing in my heart. It's sensing one and it's pacing the other. So I have had a long hospital stay. My biggest hospital stay was basically from 2002 to 2007 solid. I was maybe home a couple months through those whole 5 years. I ended up getting a very deadly infection called Pseudomonas, and usually patients who have Pseudomonas don't even survive. And mine was really bad. My chest would just be covered in it, and the doctors were amazed at how I was still alive. So I fought. I'm 27 now. I still fight. I've made videos more in depth about my CHD, so I'm not going to try to make this video too much in depth about it, but I wanted to make a video just, the update since it is February. And what's really cool is I was watching YouTube videos the other night. I usually watch those before I go to bed, and I was stumbling upon, because I go to Mayo Clinic for my heart, and I came across one of the cardiovascular surgeons over in Mayo was doing a clinical trial at Ebstein's Anomaly. That just made me smile right there, because I was born in 1990, and back then no one really knew what Ebstein's Anomaly even was. They've never even heard of it, and they had maybe one sentence in their medical college books on Ebstein's. So Ebstein's was very rare, hardly even known back then. So this clinical trial that I was watching, it's right before you have to have open heart surgery. So when I was watching, the doctor stated that the day before surgery, they take the patient's stem cells out of their own body and they inject them into the heart muscle of the heart. And this is supposed to help strengthen the heart and hopefully prolong heart failure, because heart failure is sadly a side effect symptom of Ebstein's Anomaly. So at some point I'm going to go into heart failure. Ebstein's is also really big on arrhythmias, and I've already had arrhythmias. I suffer from an arrhythmia. I take heart medication to prevent myself to prevent my body and my heart mainly to go into this rhythm. So I am blessed to have a medication that keeps my heart in normal sinus rhythm, but I just thought it was really cool. I've been praying hard for research just being done about Ebstein's, and he was very knowledgeable about Ebstein's, and it's awesome. As you know, I've done this for 27 years. When I see new doctors, when I say, oh, I have Ebstein's, they actually say, yeah, I know about that now, because in years past, I'd say I have Ebstein's, and they'd look at me like, with a blank stare and not knowing what Ebstein's is. So it's really cool to see so much research being done and just so much education being done on Ebstein's. It's truly amazing. But I am not cured. I do have a mechanical valve, like I said, and pacemaker with a bunch of leads. I take quite a bit of medication. I will never be cured for my defect. This is a lifelong thing. You could just say I'm stable at this point, which means my heart is stable. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing for its capacity at this stage of my defect. I have been on blood thinners since I was 12 years old, because when you have a mechanical heart valve put in, you're put on blood thinners the rest of your life. There's no way of getting around that, and that's because if your blood is thick, like you're watching this video, your INR is 0.9 to 1.2. So if I were to have that low of a blood level, I'd be throwing clots all the time in my valve, and it could kill me. So I take blood thinners. I was taking Coumadin from the time I was 12 to roughly last year. Coumadin is the brand name of a blood thinner. Obviously, since the title, it thins my blood. It prolongs me from clotting. Then I transitioned to generic warfarin. Generic form of Coumadin is warfarin last year. And shortly after I did that, I developed a really massive nosebleed to where I had to go to 4 ERs in 2 days. It was just constantly going. So that was a big situation that I had to deal with. So I managed to get stable for quite a while, and now lately, last couple weeks, I've been having some struggles with my numbers again. Last week, my INR range is 3.5 to 4.0. So obviously, if you're watching this video, you have no idea what that means, right? So you have an INR of 0.9 to 1.2. What that means is your blood is thick. So let's say you nick your finger and it takes you 5 minutes to clot. Since I have an INR of 3.4 to 4.0, if I were to cut my finger, quadruple that. So take the 5 and times it by 4. It would take me 20 minutes or more to clot, which is very dangerous. So I can't be in any contact sports, obviously, because of my thin blood. I have to monitor it very closely. I monitor just like diabetics do. I just prick my finger and it gives me my reading. So last week I was pretty high. I was at 5.7, and I've been in the 5s, but I hadn't really been in the high 5s in a while. So, I ended up having to contact my doctors, etc., and we managed to kind of just tweak it a little bit. And I checked it 3 days later, and I plummeted to 1.9. So 1.9 to you is fine, but 1.9 for me is pretty much deadly if I were to stay that low for a while. So that means with an INR of 1.9, I have an extremely high risk of throwing a clot anywhere on my valve. When it gets clot in my leg and it shoots up to my heart, anywhere. 1.9 is very, very dangerous for me. So I ended up calling a triage nurse about hospital about 20 minutes away, explained my situation. I think they were thinking I was stupid and dumb to be calling about a blood issue. But with my history, when stuff like that happens, you need to be on top of it. So they wanted me to just continue my normal dose. I'm like, okay, that's not going to help me get up, but I will do it. So I took it. I checked my INR the next day. So it was Friday when I checked it, and Saturday. Or maybe it was Thursday, and then I checked it Friday, whatever day. It was 2.0, so I'd only gone up a tenth. So 2.0 is still very dangerous. So my local doctor finally got back to me, and we just collaborated a little bit. I took some large doses the next couple days, and I checked it again, and I was at 3.2, which is a lot better. It was still a little low, but I wasn't quite as concerned of an INR 3.2 than it was at 1.9. So then I resumed my normal dosing, and I checked it again 3 days later, and I was 4.1. So I usually range between 3.7 to 4.1 anyway. So I was not at all concerned about 4.1. I was like, finally, it's back to where it needs to be. I'm just going to resume my regular dosing, and I take 9 milligrams on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then I take 8 milligrams on basically the odd days, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So I resumed that. I waited another week because I check mine weekly. Unless I was having issues like I was, then I'd be checking it more frequently. So I checked it on Wednesday of this week. I believe it was Wednesday. Yep. I was 6.5. I have never been that high, ever. So that's very concerning. That's extremely dangerous for me. If I were to sustain any type of injury with an INR of 6.5, either to my head or anywhere, I have a huge risk of bleeding out. Not only just bleeding out, but also internally. I don't even have to injure myself to bleed inside. I mean, if I were to throw an ulcer or something, that's dangerous. So I had to go in to the same day clinic that evening to be seen because my doctor was very concerned, and they wanted to make sure that maybe I did not have an ulcer, or if I managed to throw a clot when my INR was 1.9 in my valve. And always lab draws are more consistent or more accurate through an arm stick. So they ended up taking blood from my arm, and they also checked a hemoglobin, complete blood count, everything else to make sure, if I had an infection or any bleeding going on anywhere else. And my INR was the same as it was with the finger prick, 6.4. So I was like, okay, it's not my monitor. I am really high. They did an EKG. It showed my pacemaker was pacing, thank goodness. If it wasn't pacing, then we would have had an even bigger problem. They did an x-ray, chest x-ray, and everything seemed to be okay. My thyroid test was just a little bit low, so they have to tweak that again. It's a possibility my thyroid issues could be a factor as to why my blood is doing this. But I have been struggling with some stomach issues lately, and I do have to do a test where they need to check, gross stuff to see if I did bleed in there, or if something's going on that could be correlating to my INR. Or is my INR being high and my stomach is a symptom of that? We don't know. So that's why my doctors are trying to rule out everything. They also do want me to have an echocardiogram. I do have one scheduled already for March because that's when I see my cardiologist. But they want me to do one next week too, to also check and see if maybe I threw a little bit of thrombosis, which is just tiny clots on the valve. So I have to have that done. So I ended up taking 4 milligrams Wednesday night. I checked it yesterday morning. I was 5.3, so it had dropped. I ate a huge bowl of salad. Again, I checked it again today. I am down to 4.1. So you're maybe thinking, okay, that's good. It is good, but it's also dangerous as well as scary, because I don't want to fall really fast and then continue to fall and drastically go low. Again, that's extremely dangerous for me to just fluctuate really fast. You have to kind of do it in increments like a diabetic has to do, just slowly get it down. So it is lower, but I still might have that issue of even going lower. So now I have to take a higher dose tonight, and I'll probably recheck it Sunday or Monday to see. Hopefully it didn't drop too low. But that's what that means. And since it is Heart Month, I kind of wanted to do a little bit more education on blood thinners. It's not just I'm just checking it 1 week and I'm over it. It's a constant battle. It is just like someone who has diabetes. Everything I do, everything I eat, every time I get sick, all is a factor with my blood. If my heart's not functioning well, if I'm having problems with my pacemaker, again, I've been having problems with my stomach, anything messes with my blood. It is very very hard. It's tough being a patient of a congenital heart defect. There are days where I'm just like, you know, I don't want to be a heart patient anymore. I've been doing this for 27 years. You know, you just get tired. But I'm very thankful that I'm very educated and how hands-on I am about my defect. I want to be that involved with my care because I know what needs to be done and I know when something's wrong. I have had doctors in the past that have blown me off and said, you need to do what I say, etc., which is fine, but you also can't be doing a lot of that with me either because I'm just extremely sensitive and any little error could either shoot me really high or drop me really low and I could be stuck in the hospital hooked up to an IV. So it is a constant battle. I have been really concerned and stressed out this week with my INR. I literally freaked out on Wednesday, and when the doctor called, they said you need to leave right now and get to the clinic and make sure there's nothing major going on. So I'm very thankful that I do have doctors who are very on top of it and don't mess around. They do every test they can think of to make sure my blood is okay, to make sure I'm okay, but the main important thing is my heart and my pacemaker. If my heart is not working well, we're in an even bigger jam. So I guess you could say I'm still in a jam because I can't just take all these doses and shoot me down drastically. That can be dangerous for me, or just shoot myself down even further. So it's a hard battle, and on top of trying to keep my blood thin, I have 2 clotting disorders, which means I have, on top of blood thinners, I have 2 disorders that makes me clot a lot. So that's also things we have to put into play too whenever my blood is messing up. But I just kind of wanted to make a little educational video about blood thinners, and I know I've talked quite a bit about Ebstein's anomaly in my past videos. I'll probably do another video here in the next week or so, maybe, of just a more in-depth on Ebstein's anomaly, but it's been a very humbling sight to see all this research and so much time being devoted to Ebstein's anomaly. I have wanted this, for quite a while. Not only for me, but for if there's anyone in the future or anyone right now that has gone undiagnosed and maybe they do have Ebstein's anomaly. Ebstein's is very, very rare and it's very complex. It is also a very cool defect. I mean, I shouldn't be saying that about my defect. You know, it is cool if you look at it because it is so rare and it does help educate a lot of doctors. And, oh, you know, I've never really seen this defect before. Here's how it goes. Plus, my heart defect has made me who I am today. Honestly, it has made me the person I am, and I don't know what kind of person I would be if I didn't have a heart defect. To me, this is my life. To me, this is what normal is. Being normal for me is monitoring my heart, my blood, my pacemaker, all my pills, checking my blood, you know, having all these medical tests each year to make sure everything is still stable, if anything's improved, or if it's declining, like it's probably going to be in the next couple of years. All that stuff, it just is combined into one. So yeah, this is part of my scar. It starts here and it goes all the way down. Maybe I'll just make a video too, just showing off all my scars, but this is some of it, and you can see where I had stitches in. They actually sutured me with basically fishing wire and had left my chest like that for about 2 months. I was, you know, just struggling with a lot of heart issues. And but that is that. I hope you found this video educational, and please be sure to spread awareness. And I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video, and I will see you guys again soon.